Hello and welcome to the Fleet Innovation webinar, brought to you in partnership with mobility solutions integrator Peak Ryzex and connected fleet technology specialist AddSecure. I'm Dave Harris, and today we'll be bringing together some of the leading experts in supply chain technology to discuss how a dynamic camera telematics solution will help reduce road traffic incidents involving vehicles and make your fleet more cost-effective overall. Joining me for today's webinar is Amanda Welland, Fleet and In-Cab Consultant for Peak Ryzex, and Joshua Webb, Enterprise Sales Manager for AddSecure. We'll also be speaking to some of the customers who are already seeing the benefits of camera telematics solutions, including representatives from household names WaterLogic and Whistl. If you have any questions you'd like to pose to our panel of experts, please feel free to enter them in the chat box and we'll endeavour to answer them during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. To download product data sheets, simply select from the related content box during the webinar. The webinar itself is going to last about 45 minutes and is split into 3 sections. We'll start with an overview of the system with experts from Peak Ryzex and AddSecure. We'll then move on to a panel discussion and hear from the actual customers of the AddSecure technology. And finally, we'll have a short Q&A session to conclude the webinar. So I'd like to start now by introducing you to Amanda Welland. Amanda is the Fleet and In-Cab Consultant from Peak Ryzex, and she's going to give us a quick word on Peak Ryzex's technology partnerships.
Thank you, Dave. As a market-leading integrator of end-to-end mobility solutions, our aim is to become the first port of call for any organization looking to enhance the efficiency, productivity, and cost-effectiveness of their fleet. Our ecosystem of specialist technology partners enables us to curate the very latest innovations in hardware devices and turnkey software applications. And we continue to add value to your operations with the technical deployment expertise of our professional services, the ongoing support of our managed services, as well as hardware exchanges, repairs, and more. Through our partnership with AddSecure, Peak Ryzex is ready to support your supply chain operations with world-class end-to-end solutions.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Right, I'd now like to introduce you to Josh Webb. Josh is the Enterprise Sales Manager at AddSecure, and he's going to give us an overview of their vehicle camera technology.
Fantastic, Dave. Thank you for that. And it's good to see everyone here this morning. So I'm just going to take control of the screen and then I'll share some slides. Just give me a second to do that, please. So the agenda for today, I'm going to take you through some of the current road safety levels, and then we're going to discuss some of the impacts of accidents and road incidents that affect our fleets today. We're also then going to discuss how the camera and telematics technology can help in that regard. We would share some real world examples. I've got some captured footage that we're going to share with you. And then we've got a panel discussion, as Dave explained at the start of this broadcast. So I guess the first thing to discuss is, who is AddSecure? Well, AddSecure are a premium provider of critical and communication solutions for data. In essence, our services range from the monitoring of alarms and voice transmissions in, for example, your building's lift or elevator, right the way through to protecting children at school by monitoring buildings and personal alarm services and thereby minimizing the impact of an incident. With a very diverse customer base with over 100,000 business partners, sending us data from over 2 million connected devices globally, and with many of those devices involved in road transport, as we're going to discuss today. With a team of around 800 people that's always growing, we all work together to support our partners from 20 AddSecure locations. And we are a financially stable business with backing from our owners, Abry Partners and Castic Capital, ensuring that the business and our solutions have longevity and are continued to be at the forefront of innovation in terms of data communications and security. So today, we do have an issue on our roads and it could be better. And you can see the numbers that I'm sharing here on screen. Practically everybody watching this webinar today will rely on public roads for the transportation of goods and services. And the more we use these roads, we are putting the public and our drivers at risk. sometimes through no fault of our own. These risks become actual incidents. Unfortunately, some of these incidents can lead to death. And a shocking example of this is in 2018, around 4,205 cyclists were killed or seriously injured in the UK, and 70% of the fatalities involved HGVs. So it's clear that we all need to do more to reduce our impact on the roads. And another way these incidents can affect us is that they can cause our transportation costs to rise, in particular costs around insurance and managing the insurance claims process. One aspect of that is because of the rise of fraudulent claims, this crash for cash sub-industry, which has grown up in recent times, with over 9,000 per month of fraudulent claims, which adds a cost of around £100 million every month to our insurance costs. So the impact of vehicle incidents. Well, there are some of the most common ways our businesses are impacted by vehicle incidents that you can see. So just take a minute to consider the real impact of these areas on your own fleets. How long does it take to manage claims today? How many people are involved? And what is the cost to your business annually? Has your insurance increased? Do you feel you have these costs under control? On average, how much vehicle and employee downtime do you experience because of vehicle incidents? And what's the cost on earnings? And then we can look at vehicle repairs. Is there an amount you budget for each year? And how often do you calculate the unbudgeted cost of vehicle repairs? And lastly, and this is a big one, especially if you operate a liveried fleet. What's the impact of your reputation from local and national press, word of mouth, and more? So how can camera telematics help? Well, a vehicle camera telematics system is designed to provide accurate video evidence and detailed driver behavior data before, during, and after an incident. This is important as it encourages driver accountability, as they are in the knowledge that their actions and any impact of those actions is recorded. In terms of protection, we can use the platform to exonerate our drivers from false claims. And probably the most important benefit of a vehicle camera system is how we can use live and recorded footage together with the system-driven behavior event notifications to actually prevent accidents from happening. And we can take this to another level by incorporating ADAS, or Advanced Driving Assistance Systems, monitoring indications of driver fatigue and distraction, and ultimately reducing the risk of road incidents happening. Vehicle camera systems can hugely impact the claims management process by producing the initial incident report as captured by the camera system. And you can see that here as first notification of loss, or FNOL for short. And for some of you, these systems will better enable you to operate safely and with an enhanced level of compliance in certain industry sectors and even regions of the country, such as with the Transport for London's Direct Vision Standard, where vehicles over a given weight must have certain vehicle sensors and alarms fitted to operate in those areas. The AddSecure vehicle CCTV module is pre-integrated into the AddSecure fleet management platform. This means the vehicle CCTV system can be a standalone application that complements your existing fleet management processes and systems, or it can be delivered as part of a more holistic fleet management platform where CCTV is just an aspect or just one module in a series of fleet visibility, efficiency, and safety systems. Our packages range from forward-facing single-camera dash cams to 12-camera multi-cam platforms offering true 360-degree video capture for vehicles, trailers, and assets. And all of our packages provide remote access to live and recorded video footage with many months worth of storage in the cloud and up to 2 months of storage on the vehicle. So what we can see here on the video is just showing how simple in terms of usability the system is to work. So we've just identified a vehicle, we've hotspotted onto the vehicle. Now we're using live footage, and then we've decided to hone in onto a single camera within that multi-camera platform. Now we're going to get some real world examples, and what you're going to see here is quite shocking, but if you're a professional commercial fleet driver, this is probably something you experience every day. So what we see here, overtaken, nothing wrong there. The vehicle in front has tried to block him off. He's nearly gone into the verge. Might have even caused some damage to that vehicle. Here we can see someone's cut across into the bus and the taxi lane. I think this one speaks for itself. Wow, look at that. And here we have someone passing our line of travel and they've lost control there. And this, for me, being a parent, is probably the worst one that we've seen, where a cyclist, could be a child, no helmet, no lights, no reflective clothing, dressed in black, has caused that vehicle to hard stop. That driver has probably created an event in the system and then may have to explain that to the fleet manager. But luckily, it's captured on footage. He did the right thing in stopping and preventing an accident. So the next level, ADAS. I think we can all agree in terms of the footage that I've just shown you, it's invaluable when it comes to protecting your drivers and, of course, the public. And whilst traditional vehicle camera systems rely on the clear recording of road incidents, ADAS technology is designed to reduce the risk of an incident and in many cases actually prevent an incident from happening by deploying preventative event notifications. Now, ADAS, as I said earlier, it stands for Advanced Driving Assistance Systems, and it uses artificial intelligence to spot potential incident triggers and then notifies the driver to take action. Using a forward-facing camera to detect lane departures, forward collisions, cyclists and pedestrians, and then an internal camera to spot seatbelt usage, driver fatigue and distraction events. And lastly, a device resembling a smartwatch. It sits on the dash in the cab facing the driver to notify him or her of hazards or events that the system has picked up, so the driver can take action and get home safely with no incidents occurring. What we've got here is an example of the ADAS system. So what you can see here on the screen, there's the R-Watch device. That's the iWatch type of device that's facing the driver. And then what you're going to see is some graphics and some numerical displaying, telling the driver what's happening. At the moment, it says 2. So it's saying that we're 2 seconds behind the vehicle in front. And here we can see it's saying collision warning, and we've brought that vehicle to a stop. So here we have the ADAS system in its entirety. And what we'll see here is we have the forward-facing camera. We have the driver-facing camera. And then we also have a camera showing what the driver can see on the R-Watch device. So we click play, and as we move across, we can see the vehicle moving on the map. And what we can see here, it's saying 3.5 seconds to the vehicle in front. That's fine. 1.5 seconds. As we move around the roundabout, we're looking at the position of the head. We can now see that we're getting closer to the vehicle in front. 2 seconds. We can see events will start to pop up. 1 second. Now we're 0.9 seconds, so we need to slow down there. It's also monitoring the head to see whether we are facing the road. And we can see as we move on here, and this is when the event happened. So following distance monitored, and that's essentially telling the fleet office we were driving too close to the vehicle in front, but we have notified the driver in the cab, and therefore they've been able to back off and prevent any incident from happening. So that's real time, real footage. So in terms of the 360-degree solution, this is just an example of what you could have fitted in terms of its entirety. We've got some cab cameras, forward-facing, driver-facing, and some rear view. This is showing you where they're positioned around the cab. You can also have an in-cab monitor, a DVR with up to 4 terabytes worth of storage, and then we can also fit some sensors and alarms for other compliance, such as with FORs, with clocks, with DVS, and those sorts of things. In terms of passenger transport, the same type of setup, except you can see the addition of ADAS and also the breath lock, which is more commonly used in passenger transport. And the way the breath lock device works is on top of the camera system. In terms of compliance, a driver is required to give a breath sample before they can actually start the vehicle and depart on their journey. And that's a nice way of making sure that you are fully compliant. And in terms of an LCV, a smaller passenger vehicle, a car or transporter, that sort of thing, you've got the same type of setup, but more relevant. Some of the cameras are slightly different, whether it's an internal or a cargo loading camera, slightly smaller DVR, but we can do larger ones, just to show you that from any type of vehicle type or asset type, they are all covered. What I'd like to share with you now, just very quickly, is a customer example, a use case where, in their words, they're going to talk you through how they've managed to leverage the benefits of the system and add value within their business.
My name's Steve Bremner. I work for Lynch Plant Hire. I've been with the business for just over 2 years now. I'm the head of transport, compliance and service. Lynch Plant Hire, they've been operating for 40 years come next year, so it's our 40th anniversary. We run over 140 HGVs throughout the UK. We're a nationwide business. We do a lot of plant hire machinery, haulage and transport. We found Verilocation a good one-stop shop solution for us in bringing together a number of areas within our business. So looking at direct vision, sensors, camera systems, the tracking and driver performance and behaviour, so we can analyse a lot of the data in one place. So we looked at a number of solutions out in the marketplace, and obviously using Connexus Verilocation was our preferred option. Included within that was the camera systems. Within our business, we carry a lot of machinery on the backs of our lorries. Obviously we have material in the back of tipper lorries and grab lorries, so therefore our drivers can see visually in the cab the load and the load restraint on the back of the vehicles, therefore they can see that our vehicles are safer on the roads, and the drivers then have the option to look at the load whilst it's in transit, making sure that we are compliant with road legislation, road law, and to make sure that our drivers are safe in what they do. If we're out on a site and it's an area where the driver's not comfortable, he can call us up in the office and we can remotely log in to make sure he's safe and we're safe in the operation that he's doing. What we've noticed and what we've seen through using camera systems, the telematics, we've had a reduction in this last year of about 30% in incident rates or accident rates, which has been a great benefit to the business. Over the course of the period we've had the systems installed, the reduction in incident and accident rates, we've seen a benefit saving on our insurance, which is in excess of £50,000. We're looking at approximately between £20,000 and £21,000 per quarter saving on fuel, which is great for the business and great for the environment.
So great example there on how you can leverage the system to drive real world benefits back into the fleet, reducing transportation costs, but also making your vehicles safer on the road. That's all from me. I'm now going to hand over back to you, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh, for that excellent and informative overview. It's now time for our panel discussion to try and get under the skin of the features and benefits of this technology. Alongside Amanda Welland and Josh Webb, whom you've already met, I would like to welcome 2 more guests to the webinar, both end users of the AddSecure technology we've been discussing. Lee Shropshire is UK Fleet Manager for WaterLogic. He's been in the fleet industry for 35 years and is in charge of a fleet of 350 vehicles across 19 operational sites in the UK and Ireland. Among other things, he's responsible for compliance, procurement and insurance, as well as heading up the fleet operation teams across the business. Baz Barrett is the National Fleet Manager at Whistl. He's also been in the industry for 35 years and has a fleet of 630 vehicles across 11 depots under his care. He's responsible for providing industry-leading knowledge and initiatives for the whole fleet around maintenance and compliance, as well as fleet availability, utilisation and cost management. So thank you both for joining us. I wonder if I could start by asking you both, can you tell me the initial reason that you wanted to install camera technology into your vehicle fleet? Lee, perhaps you could address that one first.
Yeah, we had quite a large increase in fleet over quite a short period of time, and we noticed that our accident rate was increasing quite significantly. So it was just a method of controlling the accident rate, and that was our initial requirement. Okay, and Baz, what about you? What was the thinking behind you wanting to install this sort of system?
Same thing really, accidents and complaints, being able to defend those claims. So we had quite a rise, especially in complaints when we re-liveried the fleet, and until we put cameras in, we had no way of actually defending that, and insurance. So first notification of loss, we've got all the evidence on a camera as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Lee, I wonder, did you have specific requirements for the camera system? Were there any specific features you were looking for when you first went down this road?
It was more of a fully integrated system, really. We've trialed other camera systems and they just weren't fully integrated. And it was quite disjointed. So it was the case of having a system that was, robust and fully integrated.
Yeah, and Josh, do the system? Presumably there are quite a lot of systems on the market. Do they vary a lot in their features and capabilities?
Yeah, they do vary a lot in terms of features and capabilities, and I think some of the ones that some of the biggest USPs in terms of the AddSecure platform are the fact that, one, it's a fully integrated system, so it can be either as a single module or it can be part of a larger platform, but then it's that live, the ability to get footage live on the fly when you need it, and then remote download. And so it's not just about protecting the drivers, it's also about functionality and being able to use the system simply.
Amanda, when you are talking to customers, do they come to you with specific sort of problems around, the stuff that Lee and Baz were mentioning about, being, accidents and trying to, prove who's at fault and that sort of thing, or do they not sort of quite see it in those specific terms in your experience?
It's more a case of it's there, it's live, it's undebatable. You can view exactly what happened. You can prove fault immediately, and it ends up turning your insurance claim time around to minimal time frames because it's there. You've got full, complete evidence. And with the amount of road accidents increasing, from my side, it's becoming an absolute inquiry to specifically fully integrated, which ties up with your telematics, as Josh said.
Yeah. Baz, I wonder if I could come back to you. Did you, when you were sort of looking at systems, did you trial different systems and that sort of thing, or did you go straight for the one you ended up with?
No, we did trial a few different providers. We've had a relationship with Connexus for years. We've always used their technology in terms of tracking and driver behaviour. The problem that we had was going out there and finding somebody that did everything. I'm not going to name different companies, but you will find some will do bits of it, but not all of it. With these guys, we got everything under one umbrella. So we've got driver behaviour, we've got video evidence, live or recorded, and it's all under one platform. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so that long-term relationship with Connexus, who obviously have become AddSecure now, that was important to you, presumably.
Absolutely, and you can break it down into different sections of the product, which is great, but also the backup and the service that we get from these guys is faultless. I have no issues.
Lee, I wonder if I could ask you about how easy it was to integrate this equipment into your existing fleet. Was that a tricky operation?
We've had experience with an existing tracking company that was obviously outgoing by bringing in Connexus very location. So we'd been used to having vehicles installed with equipment, but yeah, the integration was very smooth. The actual installs were very quick, and obviously with a fleet that is reasonably scattered across the country, that was quite important for us. So that was really well managed, I thought.
And did you notice sort of a change in the behaviour of your drivers quite quickly or immediately?
Definitely, we've had quite a huge reduction in accidents over the last 12 months. Some of it can obviously be put down to COVID and less vehicles on the road, but certainly, the system we've had installed with the camera technology has encouraged the drivers to drive more safely, I think. So our accident rates are down 50-60% at the moment.
Yeah. And Baz, do any of your drivers sort of get a bit uncomfortable about having cameras in the cab, or do they see it as something that protects them?
So originally it was quite difficult because we're a heavily unionised company. The turning point for me was when we started to defend drivers. So once we had a couple of incidents come through whereby it was a driver was accused of doing something or a fault type accident, that we've managed to turn around and defend A, the driver, and B, the company, that was the setting stone for me. And it started to get better from there, really.
And Josh, I suppose that's a really important point, isn't it, that Baz has just made? It is about protecting the drivers as much as the companies.
100%. I was just about to interject. I'm glad you've come to me. Yeah, 100%, because a lot of the times when we're consulting with companies about this technology, the pushback from the drivers is it's Big Brother, somebody's watching me, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to be recorded, etc. But if we can make the focus more on it's protecting you, and also if there is something, if you've done the right things, we're able to exonerate you. We can provide proof that you've done the right thing. So it's twofold. And in terms of the next level of cameras, if we think about ADAS technology and what's coming next, it might be a new technology today, but it's something that in the future will become more the norm. Having the ability to make sure that drivers are protected so that they're not being overworked, they're not fatigued, they're not tired, and if they are, bringing that information back so preventatively we can do something so there isn't an issue when we send that guy out on the road. That's a powerful thing to be able to do. So it's good to actually hear from Baz's point of view that you've been able to get that you've been able to get people on side once they've realized that they are being protected rather than being watched, for sure.
Yeah, and Amanda, is that your experience as well with the customers you deal with? Have the staff, the drivers themselves, appreciated that this is something that can benefit them?
It is. The initial hesitation blows over, and people start understanding that it's there to protect them as much as it is to protect your public.
Yeah.
Lee, I wonder if I could ask you now about this business of defending claims against you, fraudulent or otherwise. How did you manage that process before, and what's the difference now?
I think it's quite simple. Previously we were at the mercy of the insurance company and literally, word of mouth. So we were quite in the dark really before, but since we've had the cameras and been utilising them fully, we've probably had 5 or 6 claims where we've strongly been able to defend by the footage alone, and it has obviously saved us quite a lot of money, and it's also defended the driver, as Baz said.
And can you measure and monitor the fleet sort of risk now with this new technology?
Yeah, definitely, and we use an internal tracker to measure things like speeding events, idling events, that kind of thing. So our trackers are demonstrating continuous improvement.
Yeah, and Baz, is that your experience too? Do you find the measuring and the monitoring of the fleet is now an important part of using this technology?
Absolutely. To add one to it is that we had quite a lot of incidents that were involving lane changing. So if you're in a HGV or an LGV, you change lane or you have a collision on a motorway, 90% of the claims that went to court we lost. What we've now found is obviously we've got footage that says, no, we didn't, or look, this is what actually happened. So yeah, it's measurable. And that is certainly one of the factors is that aspect of it.
Yeah, Josh, is there any training involved for staff and indeed operators like Baz and Lee that when these sort of systems go in, or is it all fairly intuitive?
It's very intuitive. It's very simple to use, but yes, we do offer training. So when we implement it, it's about working hand in hand in partnership and making sure that fleets receive benefits after the implementation. But then in terms of ongoing training, we have in-house telematics consultants. We even have some in-house driver trainers who have driven commercially on the roads for some time, and so because of that, it means they have a bank of real-world knowledge that they can share with fleet operators and say, this is what we experience. They can even go out with drivers. So yeah, and it's a really important point. You have to have that hand-holding for sure.
Lee, did you get any sort of incentives offered to you by insurance companies and things for investing in this technology?
I think, yeah, our insurance company are obviously keen for us to look at this kind of technology. They're never usually forthcoming with the money to support that, unfortunately. But yeah, we're seeing the benefits, and we're looking this at the end of this period of a rebate on our insurance policy. So we will get it back, but in a different way.
Yeah, and Baz, what about you? I mean, did your insurance companies, smile upon this technology? Do they encourage you?
Not only do they smile upon it, they actually sponsored some of it. So they did put a bursary up for us to get this kit installed. More to the point, we've now gone to the next level where we've installed DVS, so the direct vision standard, and the insurance company paid for 50% of those cameras to be fitted. So they're seeing the benefit in terms of claim, and the loss ratio has reduced as well. So it's a win all round.
Yeah, Amanda, that's really interesting, isn't it? That the insurance company actually, put some hard cash up front there.
Absolutely. Most of the time they're willing to reduce insurance premiums, but hardly to fit part of the bill, at least 50%.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So I wonder, Lee, before we finish this discussion, whether you sort of had where you thought about return on investment, and did you sort of have KPIs and things like that you were hoping you would achieve once you install this equipment, and have you achieved them?
We're certainly on track for that. There's obviously been some delays on return on investment due to the nature of the business and COVID, that kind of thing, but we're certainly on track to see the return on investments this year.
Yeah, and Baz, same for your company?
Yeah, definitely. Certainly in terms of fuel, which is the other side of the system, but also ethanol. So if I tell you that our first notification of loss is 80% of all accidents reported same day, backed up by video evidence, that's leading in our class, that is. So, and what we get is, if we can keep it at a certain level, I think 75% is our target, we get a rebate at the end of the year. So yeah.
Lee, before we finish the discussion, I mean, have you got any real life examples you can give us, without naming names, obviously, of where you have really, in the old system you'd have ended up paying out lots of money for an accident or something like that, but under the new system you've been able to just say, no, it wasn't our fault?
We had a really good one in the centre of London, probably about 3 months ago, when on the cameras the car in front literally just braked without any warning at all. Normally that would have been a claim, as Basil know, somewhere £10,000-12,000 for personal injuries. It was the driver was exonerated, and it was actually proven that the lady driving had a dog on her lap. And the footage captured it all. So for us, that's a fantastic one, really.
Yeah, no, that's a good example. Baz, have you got any examples you can share with us?
We've had the same. We've had crash for cash. We've had somebody slam the brakes on, and when we pointed at the camera, they've driven off. One that sticks to mind as well that we wouldn't have been able to defend was, we were driving down a country lane within the speed limit, and it was alleged that we were on the wrong side of the road and speeding, where in fact a Ford Transit van came round the corner on the wrong side of the road, hit our vehicle and put himself in the ditch. So we defended that, and again for the driver as well. Yeah, because I think what you forget as well, just very quickly, what you do forget is that if drivers have an accident in an HGV and they're proven to be at fault, that goes across to their personal insurance as well, because you have to declare it. So that was another selling point to us for the drivers that says, look, we are exonerating you of these incidents.
Yeah, Josh, it seems to me from what Baz and Lee are saying, and from your presentation, that it's a bit of a no-brainer, really, isn't it? This stuff is very important for fleets and for the rest of us who use the roads as well, because it tells the real story of what's going on, whoever's at fault or whatever. So do you think? I mean, what's your sense across the industry? Is it starting to be universally adopted? Do you think it's inevitable that all the big companies are going to use this stuff? Maybe they already are.
It's definitely mature enough as a product that it is very widely adopted within the industry. There are still some companies that perhaps are waiting for a little bit more proof, or they're not sure about making the investment or how to make the investment, which is why these sorts of forums are really important, because they're getting to hear it from real world examples where the benefits are, not just in terms of removing bad driving habits and protecting their drivers, but then also commercially in terms of reducing transportation costs from insurance rebates and reductions on renewals and those sorts of things. So this sort of forum is really important to get that message out there. But I would say any fleet that is concerned around the safety of their drivers, and whether that's a duty of care to them, their own drivers, or the wider public, this is certainly one of those technologies that should be pivotal in terms of what they implement to achieve that.
Well, thank you very much, all four of you, for taking part in this panel discussion. It's been really interesting. I've certainly really learnt a great deal. Before we finish now, we're gonna move on to a little Q&A, and I'm going to pose some questions that have been submitted to us. So if everybody's happy, we'll go straight on and do that now. So here's a question that somebody has sent in. I'll read the question to you rather than trying to paraphrase it. That's probably easier. Other than for accident management and driver training purposes, have the cameras benefited you in other ways? So, Lee, could I put that to you first?
Yeah, I think it's just more of a behavioural thing. Not only what the cameras are recording and what it can do for you, following incidents. I think it generally produces a different driver behaviour, and that's my experience from it. And I think our insurance claim figures are definitely demonstrating that.
Yeah. And Baz, do you feel the same way?
I do, yeah. It certainly does change the way that drivers drive, but also if we've set hours as well, it runs for a certain amount of time when the vehicle's switched off. So you've got the added bit of security there as well, if you're leaving your vehicle unattended for a while. But yeah, it changes the way that people drive.
Josh, have you got anything to add on that sort of idea, that it can benefit in other ways as well?
Yeah, I think to Baz's point there, so we have a customer that has used the camera system to settle disputes over stolen goods, because one of the aspects in terms of how it works, you can essentially have it as a CCTV system. So as Baz alluded to there, you can set the system to power down with a delay after the vehicle ignition has been switched off. So you've then got a CCTV. You can also have internal loading cameras, so you can see whether cargo has been taken out of the vehicle and who took it out. And we've even had one instance where a customer has been using it to settle delivery disputes, to say that they actually did attend site, but there was no one there, and they can see that within the system. We were there, we pulled up at the right address, but there was no one there, etc. So yeah, definitely there are lots of use cases for this technology.
Amanda, it seems to me that there are so many plus points to this. It must be quite difficult in a way to know where to start when you're sort of telling a potential customer about this.
It is. It is. There's more benefits to imagine on a camera system. It's just to get it across that it really is a benefit. It's not just a costing exercise.
Yeah, that's brilliant. We've got another question here. Somebody's asking about ROI, and I know we did mention that in the panel discussion. The question is, once the cameras were fully installed, how long did it take to start to see a return on investment? I mean, Lee, you said that you were on your way, but I mean, are you? And obviously, COVID has sort of altered the map a bit, but. When you installed it, I mean, did you think ROI was an important aspect of it?
It certainly was, yeah, because obviously you have to get the blessing from the board for the expenditure, obviously. So it's definitely an important part of it. We were looking at a sort of a 14-month return on investment. As I said, there's been some delays to that, but we will be on target pretty much for that.
Yeah, and Baz, did you? I mean, again, when you were weighing up the pros and cons of the investment, and I know, obviously a bit of help from the insurance company as well, but was ROI a big factor for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we had one incident 2 years ago that would have cost this business millions if we couldn't have proved. Without too much detail, we had a motorist that committed suicide under the front of one of our vehicles. Not only did the cameras record the whole thing, but also after the impact as well. So when the cab was badly damaged, we still managed to record and prove what had happened. We wouldn't have been able to do that without a camera. It's, just to sum it up, it'd be driving blind now without these things in.
Yeah. So this is game-changing technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Josh, I wonder if I could ask you about, we've had a question about the future, about where's the technology going, and you mentioned something called ADAS. So I wonder if you could talk to us about ADAS, tell us what it is, for those of us who don't know, and also talk to me about what's coming next.
Okay, so I firmly believe that ADAS, or another sense of that, is AI using artificial intelligence within the cameras, is the next thing to come. There is some adoption in the market today, but it is a new product. It is a new version of the camera technology that's already available. So that hasn't been widely adopted yet. But I think the more and more it gets used, and the more and more people see the benefits of, in terms of, instead of we need to get away from using cameras to protect ourselves from litigation. And what we need to do is say, well, if that incident never happened in the first place, there would be no litigation. There would be no protection because it hasn't happened in the first place. And the only two ways you can do that are either taking recorded footage and taking information about actual events and using that through driver training and weeding out bad behavior. So people, with due warning and forecare, when they're on the road, they take their time and they drive sensibly. Or we implement systems that can almost predict what's going to happen before it happens and provide that information both back to the back office, so we know what happened, and we can use that for training and etc. and a debrief for the drivers. But more importantly, in the cab, we use that information to stop something happening before it happens. And I think that intelligence that's needed to do that, it is very new. We have it on our ADAS system. As I say, it's not widely adopted yet, so the price point is high on those products. But the more it gets adopted, the price point will come less. And today's versions of those software, it requires an internal driver-facing camera. And Baz talked about some of the issues in getting driver-facing systems through, in terms of drivers thinking about, they're being watched in Big Brother. But the secondary camera is forward-facing. And I think as we use the technology more and more, you'll be able to have either or. You won't need both. So I think that's another way in which the technology will improve. But I would certainly say AI and ADAS is where the future is at, and that will be widely adopted. And hopefully this will come as standard at one point within all vehicles, and all operators will be required to have this because it's the safest way to operate.
We're nearly out of time now, but before we finish, I wonder whether I could get Lee and Baz just to perhaps offer a bit of advice to maybe a fleet operator who hasn't gone down this road yet for whatever reason, because perhaps they're a bit small and they don't want to invest in it or whatever. What would be your advice, Lee, to start with? What would you say to that fleet operator?
Go for it. There's absolutely no reason not to do it. The only thing I would say really is make sure you involve your drivers from an early stage, get their buy-in, and as Baz said, get the message across to them that it's their benefit as well, and you will definitely reap the rewards from it.
And same question to you, Baz. What would be your advice to somebody who's thinking about this but hasn't gone down the road yet?
Stop thinking and do it. Like I just said to you, it's almost like, I'll just put it into context. Years ago, people always said you don't need telematics, you should know where your fleet is. This is the same with cameras. You have to have cameras now. You do. I'll say we're blind as a business without it. It's defensive. And also in terms of driver training, which has been mentioned, a picture paints 1,000 words. And if you take a driver through an incident with the camera footage, it's more beneficial than sitting there talking him through it, because you see the mistake. So just get on with it, basically.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you. That's fantastic. So listen, apologies to our viewers if you haven't had an opportunity to respond with us to the panel questions yet, because we're just out of time now, I'm afraid. But we will, of course, provide a response to anybody who's put a question on the online forum as soon as possible. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this Fleet Innovation webinar. We hope you found the discussion useful and insightful around the benefits of camera telematics solutions. My thanks to our panel of experts, Amanda Welland from Peak Ryzex, Josh Webb from AddSecure, Lee Shropshire from WaterLogic, and Baz Barrett from Whistl. If you'd like to learn more about the technology and the solutions covered in today's webinar, you can visit Peak Ryzex via www.peak-ryzex.co.uk, or you can contact them directly at 01249 659 000 or via email at infouk@peak-ryzex.com. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope we'll hear from you soon.